Good morning, friends. This is Rahul Magan here as the Chief Executive Officer of Treasury Consulting and also a venture capitalist. Today, we're going to shoot a very dedicated video about as why we should not consider the interbank limit in the reporting architecture of the globe. Now, once we're talking about the reporting architecture of the globe, we are talking about something which is being prescribed by FASB, Financial Accounting Standard Board, who is the control body of US GAAP, and by IASB, which is International Accounting Standard Board, which is the controlling board of IFRS. So how exactly it happens? We need to understand that previously the world was having IAS 39, and IAS 39 was not bad. Of course, it was not a perfect, but IAS 39 was not bad. Then IAS 39 went out, and then we went with the US GAAP, and then US GAAP. Now we are on the IFRS. From 1st January 2018, IFRS is practically applicable in Singapore and most of the European countries, and of course US is on IFRS. There is no doubt about that. But the question is that there is a biggest flaw or a flip side which I see in the IFRS, and that flip side is the reporting architecture of the interbank limits. Before moving further, I would like to tell you what exactly is the interbank limit. So let's take an example of the Goldman Sachs. The total asset book of the Goldman Sachs is approximately $1 trillion. Approximately $1 trillion. While the total notional amount of the derivative contract Goldman Sachs taken is roughly $42 trillion. Now the question is that this $42 trillion of the notional contract, which is there in the books of the GS, is actually of 6 and 7 asset classes, which is foreign exchange, equity, your fixed income, your money market, your energy, your commodities, your weather, and multiple 5, 6 or 7 asset classes, and probably crypto as well. I'm not sure whether crypto is there, but I doubt crypto is there. Now the question is that when you deal with the bank actually take a counter position in the market. That is also a fact. Now when bank will take a counter position in the market, bank can only take a counter position provided the bank is having the limits for that. So take an example, you hold a debit card, you hold a credit card, and the limit of this credit card is 40,000 per day. So you can draw only 40,000 per day. But this 40,000 limit is not dependent upon your salary income. It is one of the factor. It is dependent upon the CASA of the bank also, which is current account and saving account. So if you are having a credit card of any bank and that credit card is having a limit of 1 lakh, that doesn't mean it's all about your salary. It's about the CASA also. How many such debit and credit cards can be issued? Credit card or debit cards can be issued, and the availability is the CASA. Similarly, example, Goldman Sachs take up of they are having approximately 42 trillion dollar of derivative in the books. That can only be possible providing they are having not less than $200 trillion of interbank limits in the market. Because that is also a fact that banks never consume their interbank limit 100%. Bank always consume their interbank limit 20-30%, and then rest limit they keep it open. But one important thing which we need to understand in the bank's structure is that in FASB, Financial Accounting Standard Board, and IASB, International Accounting Standard Board, both of them are not asking to give the complete periodic disclosure of these interbank limits. I would like to highlight this problem with an issue which has been raised by IFRS 9 to link both the issues. Both are similar, it's just how you look at that. So IFRS 9 is one of the important USPs. Unique selling proposition of IFRS 9 is ECL, which is expected credit losses. Since ECL is a unique selling proposition, and ECL is having 3 stages, which is stage 1, everything is good, stage 2, things are turning messed up, stage 3, it's completely impaired. Now stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, ultimately you need to do the 12 months all ECL, but we are not discussing ECL in detail. Ultimately, what is that? It is that the total amount of loans and advances which the banks have given to the people outside the bank, that should be credit impaired. The impairment modeling should be up to the mark. This is what it is. My question to the regulators, especially to the best regulators of the globe like Monetary Authority of Singapore, Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, Bank of England, Reserve Bank for Australia, and more, is that why are we restricting ourselves? Why are we restricting ourselves to the concept of impairment only in the ECL? So if today let me have 7 banks I will count 7 banks: Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, JP Morgan Chase, Standard Chartered, UBS and Barclays. These 7 or 8 banks would be having, if we add the total interbank limits and exclude the double count, problem of double count, then it might be more than the GDP of this entire globe. And I won't be doubt that the GDP of the entire, it might be several times the GDP of the entire globe. Considering it is said that out of top 500 banks in the globe, 450 are working in Singapore. Some are having big offices like Chase at Robinson Road, and some are having virtual offices in Singapore. My question is very clear. My question is that if the Singapore government, the best regulator, which is Monetary Authority of Singapore, came up with a law, and in this law they make in MA 610, which is Monetary Authority of Singapore 610, the latest banking circular, risk aggregation and statistics reporting. In this they make interbank limits as mandatory. So MAs cannot instruct FSB and ISB to make interbank limits mandatory, but at least they can have this in their circular. If they make interbank limits mandatory, they would get to know what is the total exposure as a country you are facing. Now, I would like to correlate this example with 2008. What did happen? I hope you saw the movie, Hollywood movie, which is Margin Call. On 12th September 2008, Lehman Brothers used the name wrong. They misused their trust. And what exactly they did, since they misused their trust, they sold all the assets in their books at a very throwaway prices. The buyers thought that it might be they are winding up, or maybe they are quitting this portfolio, so they bought it at the throwaway prices. You know that, like Commerce Bank is being sold to Deutsche, and the Deutsche is buying Commerce Bank at the throwaway prices, right? And this creates another kind of issue, you know, which we have in the goodwill, you know. So similarly, what was 2008 crisis? It created, now after this incident, banks got to know that Lehman Brothers cheated them. They used their trust, their name in a negative, with the wrong connotation. And what happened? By the time 4 p.m. New York came, almost every bank stopped picking the call of every bank. They were not even talking to each other because they thought that it might be they are using their name in a negative sense. They are mistrusting each other. Similarly is the contention which we have here as well. If I got to know that out of top 500 banks, the 450 banks which I have, these banks are having so much amount of interbank limit minus the problem of double count. So if GS is having $20 trillion of limit with the JP Morgan Chase, and JP Morgan Chase is having 20 trillion with GS, so total is not 40, total is 20. Alternatively, another important thing, if we could do this in the regulatory, is the ISDA compliances. ISDA, if you look at the ISDA website, www.isda.org, and you check it out, the latest master circular of ISDA, which is 2005, unfortunately this master circular himself, master service agreement himself is not talking about how to deal with the interbank limits. It's not talking. I think to wind up this long video, the most important thing, the regulators, the best regulators like MAS, Fed, ECB, Reserve Bank of Australia and others to do, and another advisory bodies like Bank for International Settlement, ISDA, they should be focused enough, and they should think that, boss, we have to be very clear. If we seriously wanted to do the business, we have to include interbank as a reporting architecture. And by the time you are not including interbank limits in the reporting architecture, proper disclosure in the books, then let me assure you, the day is not far when the big burst is going to happen, and that big burst is going to take everything away. It's a matter of time. Now, to wind up this last video, to wind up this discussion, today whatever you have in the reporting, ECL, who did thought about ECL, but it is there. Who did thought about several changes we have in IFRS 9? Let me tell you who did thought about that reclassification adjustment, who did thought about the rebalancing exposure. There are several USPs, unique selling propositions, which we have in IFRS 9. Since we have these unique selling propositions in IFRS 9, why can't we have another unique selling proposition, which is the reporting architecture of the interbank limits? I hope when we are meeting MAS, Monetary Authority of Singapore, on Monday, which is 15th April, we would push this point, and the rest is up to them how they will take this forward. But I envisage that this is one of the painful points we need to deal with. Thank you. With this strategy consulting, thank you very much. You know my mobile number 919899242978. You know that we maintain several WhatsApp group, and one of the WhatsApp group is whereby we discuss all such topics on WhatsApp group. If you think you have a credential, if you think that you are having credential in the FX market and you wanted to learn more about that, then you can write to us on the WhatsApp and we will surely be replying you. All details are available on our fixed income platform www.fixedincome.global. Thank you and have a wonderful time ahead.